You're gonna need a bigger boat. So serious.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the InSession Film Podcast.
Welcome to episode 611 for November 17th, 2024, and I'm JD Duran.
And I'm Brennan Cassidy.
Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody, as we have a really fun show lined up. We are going to be talking about movie musicals of the 21st century.
I feel like we're almost singing this intro in some ways.
I definitely could not carry a tune. I don't think anyone wants to.
You had a bit of a sing-songiness to that intro there, JD.
Well, yeah, but I can do it like sarcastically, I guess, like in a fun, jokey kind of way. But you don't want me to carry an actual tune.
Okay,
but
remind me not to play bass guitar behind you, then.
Yeah, definitely, you don't want to do that. However, with Wicked coming out this weekend, Emilia Perez just came out. We have a review of that coming out very shortly as well. And you couple that with Moana 2 coming out very soon. And then you get to December and A Complete Unknown is coming out. So we have some hopefully wonderful musicals coming our way very, very soon. And so we wanted to talk about the best musicals of the 21st century. And we also narrowed that down because last year we did do a top 5 or top 10. I can't really recall.
I think we did a draft. We
did a draft. We did a draft of
Yeah.
movie musicals that expanded to all time. So to make the conversation a little different, to isolate it a little bit, because there's of course been a lot of great musicals to come out over the last 24 years. So we wanted to narrow the conversation, talk about modern musicals and the best that we've seen in that time. That'll be the back half of the episode. To start off here, we are going to continue our segment, Is the Parade On or Off, as we get into this last weekend. So, of course, we have to start off with Red One because that is the film we speculated last week. How is it going to do here domestically? Because it did have an international release.
Yeah.
And it did fairly well in its international opening. How was that going to translate to American audiences? And look, it's The Rock. It's a Christmas movie. It was on track to do something, decently well. And here we are. It's number 1 at the box office with $34 million domestically.
Okay. Have you seen it yet?
I have not seen it. No,
Okay.
I thankfully was able to remove Sam from the equation. He was very busy. And you know what we did in order to do this? So my mother and my mother-in-law have teamed up to get my kids some fairly significant Christmas gifts this year. And what that entails is we have now in our backyard this huge swing set. My youngest, Andrew, loves to swing. There's a park fairly close by. We go there all the time. But it doesn't have like a seat for him to sit in. Like I have to put him on my lap because it's a normal swing.
Right.
But we got him one where he can just sit in himself. Like it has like the straps that kind of come over and he can kind of sit on it and just be in it all day. And the man loves it. Like he just, he is never going to leave our backyard now. Like he's just forever there. So we have that. And Sam was excited for that as well. And then we got them this huge inflatable jump house thing for them to play in, which they of course had a ball in. So we busted those out and
you
to
rightfully distracted him from wanting to go see this movie.
Exactly.
That is good parenting right there.
So it worked out perfect. So I did not get to go see Red One. So
and I haven't seen it. For all I know, I might actually enjoy it, but I don't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. I would love to be surprised, and maybe I will if I ever do catch up with it. I don't want to necessarily sit here and prejudge it as something that is awful. I haven't seen it. I don't know. But the marketing for the film did not do a whole lot to invoke expectations from me or excitement. So, anyway, that is to say, Red One, I successfully avoided going to see it. But it did do $34 million domestically for a combined $84 million worldwide. It's off to a decent start. Now, the budget for it is somewhere around $250 million plus marketing.
That's just insane to me.
It's crazy. A $250 million budget for that movie. Crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
If we see more failures like this, whether movies are successful at the box office or not, if we see more failures because of these just astoundingly stupid budgets, then maybe we'll start seeing more modestly and smartly budgeted movies going forward. So hopefully these mistakes can course correct themselves into something better.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious because Red One just does not need a budget of $250 million. It doesn't.
That's so stupid.
Especially when Oppenheimer had half the budget of that. And that was a 3-hour epic.
And it probably looks and feels like 5 million times the movie Red One would ever be.
Yeah. It's insane, the budget on some of these movies. They're going to have to do something. It's just not
something needs to change.
Sustainable business.
It's not.
when you have movies like that doing $250 million, that's absolutely wild. So $84 million for that movie as it stands now, and essentially a week's worth of business, 2 weeks internationally, I guess.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I want to say that should be good for that kind of movie. It should. That number should be good for Red One.
I would have expected this movie to be budgeted around maybe 50 or 60 million. Or something
That's
like that.
what it should be.
Yeah.
There's no way that film should cost more than 50 to $80 million.
Where
With
did
today's
that money go?
economy, maybe $100 million. It should not be more than that, though. It should not be more than that.
No. Where did that money go? Did it all go into Dwayne Johnson's pocket?
It might be. All the chicken and rice the dude has to eat, I guess. I don't know.
Gosh. Yeah. He's preparing for Maui. He's got to play Maui twice.
I know. Exactly. We'll get that fairly soon as well.
Yeah.
I do want to also note, because for the last weekend, we will get to talk about this, as this coming weekend is going to be a big one.
Yeah.
The Wild Robot, still in the top 5. Still in the top 5. It's there at number 5. It has its biggest drop in a while, 35% drop.
Okay.
Adding another $4.3 million. A pretty incredible run for the Wild Robot. It sits now at $308 million worldwide. Pretty exciting. I'm so happy for that movie.
A movie. Let's talk about budget once again. And we talked about this many times. A movie that was budgeted at $80 million.
Yeah. And it's made $308 million. Crazy. That's how it should be. How.
That's more than enough to break even. It's profit. That is a profitable movie.
That's a profitable
Red
movie.
One will not be a profitable movie.
No, it will not.
No.
And I also want to note Heretic, which was also in the top 5, is now at $25 million worldwide. So that's doing quite well for A24.
Okay.
A24 with a nice little film on their hands there. So, and Anora's done well similarly. That film for Neon is around $19.6 million worldwide. So another successful movie for Neon. And the award season has really just started. So as that film gets nominated for Oscars and it's put back in the theaters, I'm sure that number will probably double when it's all said and done. So I am excited for Anora and its box office success to this point as well.
Yeah.
All right. I want to quickly move on. I want to note this. We do not have to spend a lot of time on it, but it is worth noting because last week we talked about, and a few weeks ago, we noted this as well, the trajectory of Star Wars and how they continually announce projects only for them to cancel said projects. Now, what we talked about last week was a report about what the Rey movie could look like, episodes 10, 11, and 12, how that could form. That was a report. It was not official from Disney and Star Wars. However, what is official is that Disney has removed a date from their release calendar. A Star Wars movie will no longer release in December of 2026. I'm just saying, we don't know what that is, but
I mean, at this point, that's like, what did I say? That's like announcing, oh, today's Sunday. It's basically the same kind of headline.
just
Well, duh.
another day, another Star
day.
Wars movie goes down.
Another day of the
I
week.
just found that hilarious after we ranted about that again last week.
And to be clear, this is not a cancellation. It is just a removal of something from their schedule, which
But
means
it could be. It could
it
mean
could be.
cancel.
We don't know.
We don't
know.
really
That's
know.
not confirmed. That's not denied. It could even confirm the speculations that we had last week that Lucasfilm is trying to retool their Star Wars cinematic output to whatever this trilogy might be. Maybe that movie that was planned to be released in 2026 that's no longer there is being retooled for something that might fit that new trilogy, or is just being completely disregarded because of this new trilogy as a priority. So we could speculate here as much as we want. We don't know the answer. All we know is that this is once again very on brand for Lucasfilm.
Yep, very on brand. And I do suspect that we're going to get an official announcement of something either being canceled, or it'll be the announcement of the Rey movie being merged into episodes 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
Which is sort of like a pseudo cancellation, a pseudo reworking of sorts.
Yeah, but it does make me wonder, like all these other movies that I know that Taika Waititi was apparently working on a movie. Kevin Feige was apparently working on a Star Wars movie. Have all of these been canceled? I don't really know what the status of all of them are. I mean, I think at this point now, the only movie that's being confirmed to be released is The Mandalorian and Grogu, which...
Yeah, see, no, we did talk about this a few weeks ago. I don't have it pulled up in front of me. There were a few that I believe still are in the works.
That are still, but they're just kind of in limbo right now.
Yeah, they're in limbo. They're not technically canceled, but we don't really have any information on them. So, yeah, limbo, I think, is a great way to phrase it. We don't really know anything about Star Wars on the film side of things, aside from the Mandalorian movie.
I mean,
that is coming out.
We won't know anything about Star Wars as far as their movies are concerned until we're in the theater seeing it.
Yep. That's the point we're at.
Yeah.
We know nothing. We know absolutely nothing.
We know nothing.
Okay. Just wanted to note that because I thought it was hilarious based off of our conversation on last week's show.
A total what else is new kind of moment.
Yeah. All right. I want to spend something here on something wholly endearing and delightful. So we talked about this little movie called Saturday Night a few weeks ago, about a month ago at this point. And one of the things that we talked about in that conversation, and this is also something I tweeted the moment I got out of the theater. I don't even know if maybe Brendan and I talked about it offline. I can't really recall, but I do remember talking about this on the show. I wanted to note this moment specifically. There is a scene in that film where Cooper Hoffman is in a stairwell and he's having a conversation with Mr. Fableman himself.
Yeah.
And there is a brief moment in that exchange where Cooper enhances his energy for a moment. And I wanted to note that moment specifically, not just the scene, not just the exchange, which is really great in its entirety, but that moment specifically, I wanted to highlight in that review because the way he invokes his father there Philip Seymour comes out of Cooper Hoffman in that moment. And
it's the hand gesture.
Blew me away.
Yeah, it's like that hand gesture that he does that
it's so good.
Is so reminiscent of what we've seen Philip Seymour Hoffman do in some of his more comedic outbursts in some of his movies. I think of probably the one that came to mind the most, even in that moment of Saturday Night, was the Mattress Man in Punch Drunk Love. I definitely got like a lot of those vibes coming out of him, and like father, like son, right?
Yeah, like father, like son. It's absolutely incredible. So I was absolutely delighted that over the weekend, that moment went quite viral in the film space. I was giddy that everyone was talking about that moment. I had been talking about it for 2 months, and to see everyone, I mean, you talk about something that united film Twitter. There are very few things that have united film Twitter over the years. But this certainly was one of them, where everybody to a T was emotionally moved by that. And since then, there's been TikToks of people comparing Philip Seymour Hoffman to Cooper in their mannerisms and how similar they are. Oh my goodness. I went through all of them. I liked every tweet. I saw every TikTok about it. I spent my whole weekend, when I wasn't building a swing set for my kids, I spent my whole weekend just going through all of that discourse because it was utterly delightful. It's incredible.
I'm seeing a lot. I'm going on Twitter now to see some of the posts that people have been making on it, and most people are putting the side by side with Cooper Hoffman in that scene alongside his father in Punch Drunk Love, that phone scene specifically. But I'm also seeing a lot of comparisons being drawn to Philip's performance in Charlie Wilson's War. I feel like I'm seeing that. I feel like I'm seeing those two the most, but they're all very indicative of how he's just like I said, like father, like son. I said it jokingly, but it's not a joke at all. It is honestly,
it is incredible. So I have the clip. I hope we don't get demonetized here on YouTube, but I want to play the clip because it is so good. I have it pulled up. So here is the clip from Saturday night that we've been talking about.
Sorry, you need a sponsor for a show that can't pull a single advertiser. You know they're giving out the ads for free.
That's so good. That's so good. That is absolutely Philip Seymour.
The tone in that voice. You know they're giving out the ads for free. The way it arches and falls at the exact same pitch and intonation is so his father.
So good.
It's so his father.
I gotta play.
Sorry, you need a sponsor for a show that can't pull a single advertiser. You know they're giving out the ads for free.
That's right. Oh, that's so good. That is. Oh my god. Yeah. No. Yeah. I nearly fell out of my seat when I saw that in the theater.
You know,
I was
they're
like,
giving
that
out the
right
ads for
there
free.
was.
Are you threatening me?
Oh,
that wasn't good.
So good. Yeah, that was 100% his father coming out there. Someone said it on Twitter, and I completely agree. It was like seeing a ghost. It was like seeing a ghost.
Incredible. I think it might be the best performance of the year just for that reason.
Oh my gosh, it's remarkable. And I believe I noted this actually on the InSession Film account because I've also tweeted about it on my personal account. It's hard to keep it all straight.
Oh, for sure.
But on the InSession Film account, I think I said something to the effect of like Cooper Hoffman has actually done a fairly great job of being his own personality. Like I think he has separated himself from his father for the most part. Like I feel like I see Cooper Hoffman on screen.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy him. Like I think he's a great young actor that I think now after this weekend we're all more excited to see more of.
Absolutely, yeah.
But that was the moment. That was the one moment, at least until these TikToks started to highlight the comparisons. I feel like now in hindsight, I got to go back and rewatch some of these performances a little bit closer. But
I just hope that Hollywood doesn't take the wrong lesson from this and start fast tracking a Philip Seymour Hoffman biopic and cast Cooper Hoffman in it.
I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah, I hope not.
I hope not.
I don't think they will either. I say it kind of jokingly because Hollywood is just so unpredictably silly sometimes.
I almost said that too confidently as if there was no way that would ever happen. but we're also talking about Hollywood, and a lot of the things they do are quite gross. So would I be surprised if tomorrow they announced that, to your point? I really wouldn't. Honestly, I wouldn't.
What would surprise me is if Cooper says yes to it. Like that's what I
agree. I don't think he would. I don't think he would. So I like the part of me that wants to be optimistic about the future of cinema. No way that's going to happen. But you never know. There are a lot of
there's always room to be
out there that are
unpleasantly surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. But that is to say, the discourse over Cooper Hoffman this weekend made me extremely giddy. I was so excited to see that take place and all of us come together to be like, yeah, man, he really manifested his father in that moment.
I wonder if he knew
and we all
that.
miss him. We all deeply miss Philip Seymour Hoffman. So
I wonder if he did that on purpose. Like I would love to have been a fly in the wall during that direction process and maybe what Cooper was choosing to channel. Or if it's just, it's in the blood. It's just an instinct. It's something you can't shake.
I don't know. I wonder if anyone on set noticed it. Did anyone on set during the take be like, "Oh my God, that's Philip,
your dad."
There. Yeah. I don't know. I certainly noticed it in the theater though. I was really taken aback. So that discourse over the weekend, I was very, very happy to see. Yeah. I had a lot of fun with that.
Oh yeah. I miss Philip.
Miss him deeply. Okay, let's move on from that. As many times as I could watch that clip.
So you'll say one more for good measure.
Yeah. Oh, sure. We could do one more for good
measure.
One more for good measure. Yeah.
Sorry, you need a sponsor for a show that can't pull a single advertiser. You know they're giving out the ads for free.
That's just the best. That's just the best.
I think that put us in a good headspace to go forward.
Yeah, no, I love that. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, let's talk about the Oscars. We're going to be talking about award season quite a lot over the next few months.
Yeah.
Our Emilia Perez review, which might come out the same day as this episode.
Yeah.
We get into the Oscars a little bit there. We have a new host for 2025, and it is one Conan O'Brien. And while the Academy has done a lot of dubious things over the years, I feel like they've finally made a decision that makes a lot of sense. Conan, for my money, was the best late night host we've had, at least in my lifetime, or like since I've been able to pay attention.
As of late, I'd say post
of his era,
Jay Leno and David Letterman, I'd say in comparison to those like Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel and all of those that were mostly functioning from the mid 2000s onward, Conan was also my favorite. Yeah,
he was easily my favorite. He always had a unique sensibility to him where, like Jay Leno's comedy, his Tonight Show felt very cookie cutter to me. Letterman was great.
Kind of
I really liked Letterman.
Letterman was edgy. He wasn't for everyone. He was very dry, something I liked. But it seems like this is the point you're about to make, and sorry for cutting you off. Conan just had like a sweetness to him, right? Like there was something very sincere and he was the most huggable of them all in a way.
Yeah, I mean, he was really clever and quirky. He did things that nobody else was doing. And I think that's why at least our generation really shifted toward Conan. Yeah. Whereas, like the Leno fan base was like our parents' generation.
Right.
Like they or maybe even older than that, right?
Yeah.
Like it was the older demographic that really went for Leno. Whereas we tend to go toward Conan. And I love that quirkiness. I loved that brazen weirdness he brought to late night and to his comedy. So I've always loved him. And when he has done things like the Emmys, I think he's always killed it. So like this felt like an easy solution that isn't necessarily the safe choice like Kimmel is. Kimmel's never going to come on to the same network that he has his late night show on and do anything edgy or weird or unique. He had his moments. I thought like the first time or two, I thought he was perfectly fine. Yeah. Had some great bits, maybe not. 2016 was a little weird because I still think that that was a time where hosting the Oscars still went way beyond what was necessary. The last few years, what I've liked about Kimmel, he hasn't been like a funny, clever host. He's just been good at, let's just keep the train on the tracks. Let's just keep this thing going.
He's been very efficient.
Efficient, absolutely. Yeah. And I don't mind that. Does that make him a great host? Maybe not, but I do think it makes
him a tactile host.
Yes. And honestly, given that the show is like 4 hours and it's there's already an inherent awkwardness to it, I think maybe that's an underrated quality. Like if we're going to, and I'm sorry to bring this up, but this is what comes to mind for me. I'm a very sports-minded person as much as I am an arts-minded person. I know a lot of our listeners, when we bring up sports, are like, oh, here we go again, and they tune out for a moment. But just to articulate the point, there are quarterbacks in football that are electric. They're really great. They're unique. They're inventive. They make plays on the run. They're great improvisers. And then there are quarterbacks that are just great at what they call them is field generals. They're not unique. They're cookie cutter. They're not going to do anything that you don't expect. But they do what is necessary to get the job done. And those quarterbacks have won Super Bowls, that have won national championships in college. Those quarterbacks are still very effective. And that was Jimmy Kimmel. He was a great field general. Yeah. He's not going to make crazy plays. He's not going to make the highlight reel, but he'll do enough to still get you to the Super Bowl.
He's not going to necessarily get you the most points in fantasy, but might be the most consistent, right? Or the best team player as well.
Yeah. I'm a big Detroit Lions fan. Jared Goff, the quarterback for the Lions, is really that. He's not going to, go out there and create highlight reel plays. That's just not. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's just not.
No.
He's just going to stand in the pocket and he's going to make a great throw. That's it. There's nothing unique or clever about his play. He's just really good at what he does, getting you down the field. That's it. And I say that to say that might be an underrated quality because we want the host to be really funny and clever and to make it memorable. But keeping the train on the tracks is a skill that not everyone has.
And that's where I think Jimmy Kimmel deserves the most credit because the way he handled the La La Land Moonlight debacle was actually very well done. And I give him a lot of credit for that. And if there is going to be another host that the Academy is going to select to keep pushing things forward, I could see Conan being a good choice in that regard. I think he's funnier and certainly more charming in some ways, which is a very different vibe. But he also speaks pretty fast. I actually think he's someone that does get to the point very quickly. So I think he does have a different type of tactility to his hosting style that, not to say it's different from Jimmy Kimmel, but I think Conan is also going to be very good at keeping the train on the tracks in a very speedy kind of way, which I am looking forward to. Selfishly, when I heard the announcement, my first thought was, I love Conan, but another late night talk show to host the Oscars again. Really, I guess I was secretly hoping for someone completely different that was maybe outside of that kind of occupation, if that makes sense. I'm also secretly hoping for the Muppets to host the Oscars one day. Like, I want to see something like that happen.
I mean, I don't know if we'll ever see that.
That is what the world needs. That would be inspired. What the world needs. Yeah.
I think Conan is an inspired choice, though, and I think, again, it goes back to I've never, ever seen him as your typical late night host. That's just never been his personality. He's always been really inventive and intuitive in his comedy. And again, I think maybe one of those indicators is that, one, because he's not a stand-up comedian. And because that's not his strengths, like his monologues for his late night show, shorter than everyone else's, because that's not his strength. Yeah. He would open with a monologue because that is the formula. Yeah. But he kept it fairly short and brief. And then he would go on to do his goofy shit. I think that's exactly how this is going to play out. In fact, I don't even know if he'll do a monologue. If he does, I think it's going to be brief. And then I think they're going to do some sort of weird, goofy gag.
I think it's going to be more,
and part to his flavor of comedy. I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
It's going to be more performative, maybe even more vignette-like in nature.
Yeah.
Because some of the things I like the most from Conan on his own, late night talk show when he was on TBS, I think it was on TBS where he moved to.
Yes.
Some of my favorite things he did was some of these experimental things that he may have filmed at a different day that just happened to air during that show that he was currently airing at the time. I remember one bit that he did with Dave Franco where they joined Tinder back when Tinder was a huge. It's still to this day one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And then the follow-up when he and Billy Eichner joined Grindr is still like some of the funniest things I've ever seen. Absolutely love it.
That's a great point. That is exactly what we're going to see. He will probably do a short monologue just to intro the show and maybe talk about some of the movies. But I think it'll be fairly brief. And then he's going to get into some sort of gag like that.
Yeah.
Where it tailors to his sensibilities as a comedian. And how that'll look, I don't know, because it's Conan and you can't really pin him down. Like, you don't know exactly what he's going to do. It's always something weird.
Yeah.
And compelling. And that's what I'm very excited for. I think he is going to bring a flavor that we just haven't seen with that show before.
Sure.
And I can't wait. I mean, like, you think about even most recently, like what he did on Hot Ones. He did is something we've never seen on that show. And how many Hot One episodes have they done now? I mean, that's a show that's been on like a decade, around the same time that we've been doing ours.
Yeah.
And you, all the guests of all the hundreds of guests they've had on that show over the years, no one has done what he did. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, he just can't be normal. Like, he's going to do something weird.
That quirkiness is really what makes him so awesome.
Yes, I agree.
He's almost got a childlike. He's almost got a childish quality to him,
which he talks about. He talks about that a lot, like on his podcast.
He's very boyish in a way, which I really like.
And so like that, just that weird childlike quality in him, I just adore, and I can't wait to see how that manifests at the Oscars. I think we're going to see something, really weird and new, and I can't wait. Really smart choice. Congratulations on the Academy for once you did something right.
All right, so now the game is, what are they going to do wrong next?
Yeah, exactly. After this year, I mean, in
they'll
some
make
ways,
the announcement.
I hope.
Yeah, maybe they'll make the announcement that half the categories don't get aired.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to fix that after the response from a few years ago. They've certainly remedied that. Getting a good host like Conan is another great step to making a great product, which is ultimately what this is about. And I think they've succeeded in that regard. So yeah, I can't wait to see how he conducts the train, because it's going to be very different than what we've been used to. Cannot wait. So Conan hosting the Oscars. All right, the last thing I want to mention here, and then we can move on to musicals. And I want to mention this, even though it's not entirely newsworthy, but Brendan and I have been quite vocal about our love for How to Train Your Dragon and How to Train Your Dragon 2. Those two movies are some of the best animated films really of all time, not even just of the last decade or the 21st century.
Great
phenomenal
movies,
phenomenal movies that I think rival any other animated film we've seen. So they are, of course, doing this live action version of How to Train Your Dragon, and we got our first official look this last week. Brendan, what say you?
It's a very basic image. It's not even really news. It's clearly an image of Hiccup in what looks like, the gladiatorial space fighting a dragon. It looks very much like the animated movie. Before seeing this image, my thought was, I am getting 2019 Lion King vibes from this. After seeing this image, those fears are becoming more confirmed for me. this is just an image. This is not going to be emblematic of the film. For all we know, it could be a moment that's very mirroring of the animated movie before it goes off on its own path. Maybe that will be the case, and we will be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
But the image and the feelings I get from it are just indicative of how I've been feeling about the existence of this movie in the first place. And not even just the existence of it, the fact that we're getting Gerard Butler to play Stoic once again.
Yeah,
we're getting John Powell back to score the movie.
Yeah.
We're getting Dean DuBois himself to write and direct it. You're getting all of the talent from that animated movie. You're just screaming at us, we're making the exact same movie again. Like, if you're going to do this, I want a new director. I want a new composer. I want new actors. I don't want the same thing, because I'll just go back and watch the animated movie. And this image is showcasing that it looks like we're getting the same thing. And that scares me. That really scares me here. Yeah,
I am completely with you. Now, I do hope that it's not Lion King bad. I hope it's not,
Yeah.
you know, the 2019 Lion King. Now, visually speaking, it is quite
drab,
diluted here. Like it. Yeah, I was trying to maybe be nice about it.
It does kind of look. I mean, I know this is not a live action Disney property, but it does kind of have a similar desaturated kind of look to it. That
it's quite prosaic. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really enticing about it. From a visual perspective, it doesn't pop in any sort of way. And you couple that with what you noted there, and this was my first initial thought, is this is just an imitation of the animated movie. It is, it's maybe not an exact frame from the animated movie, but it's fairly close. It's very close.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look all that inspired to me. And look, this is just a still. One still that might not even be in the movie for all we know. But it doesn't have any sort of visual flair to it. It's a recreation of something that we've already seen before.
I know.
Like, if this is supposed to be a marketing push, like, hey, look at this, get excited for live action How to Train Your Dragon. I mean, this does the antithesis. Like, this is not exciting at all. And then you couple that with the interview that Dean DuBois did with Empire, where he talked about how the live action dials up the stakes, which I think is kind of nonsense. Like, I mean,
there were so many stakes in that first movie already.
Yes, I think there's a ton of stakes in that first movie. And animation does not have to be a medium that is quote unquote lesser in terms of stakes or emotion.
Yeah, it seems to be implying,
which is what that implies.
It does. It's implying that those movies were kind of stakeless by comparison.
Yeah. Like, I don't need to see a quote unquote live action Toothless to make me feel the essence of that character. I mean, what DuBois does with the animated film is he fully realizes a dragon character in a way that has real nuance to him, in ways that animation is able to do. That live action is probably going to be challenging, circling it back to your point there about The Lion King, right? That is the major criticism of The Lion King, is that you're using photorealistic animals who can't express emotion. So that's what we're going to do to Toothless now? We're going to make him photorealistic and remove all of that animation?
My thing is, like, my prediction is, I don't think they're going to go that photorealistic route for the dragons in this live action version.
That's what he said in the interview.
I find that so hard to believe, and I do not that I think that what he's saying is wrong. Just I guess, let me phrase it this way: if I were to have made my own prediction on how the dragons were going to look prior to hearing any kind of news on it, my thought was going to be they're going to look exactly like the animated movie. Like, they're going to look no different. That was going to be my prediction.
Yeah.
Like Toothless was going to look maybe like a glossier version of Toothless, the same Toothless we already know. But if they are going that photorealistic route, okay, that scares me. That really scares me. That
Yeah.
really just that seems.
And that is the quote. He's when talking
Okay,
about the
okay.
stakes. When talking about the stakes, he said it's going to be, quote, dialed up, having a full, credible, photoreal dragon stomping around trying to kill him. Again, implying that, if it's a real dragon, that enhances the danger.
That just sounds boring to me.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then there's
I mean,
and then I even saw an interview now as I'm looking this up with Gerard Butler, where apparently he said that the costume he wears is very faithful and similar to the costume of Stoic in the animated movie. It's like, okay, this is just emblematic of the problem once again.
yeah.
just
leave the
nothing-
animated movie alone. Like, we don't need this.
Nothing is exciting me or giving me hope for this project. I'm not feeling it.
I'm not feeling it either. I love How to Train Your Dragon. I love it. In fact, next year, down the road in Orlando, Universal is opening their brand new parks on Memorial Day. And one of those new attractions is a whole How to Train Your Dragon world. And guess who's going to be there opening weekend? I will be stomping around the How to Train Your Dragon grounds with full on tears. I will be a grown adult sobbing, walking through How to Train Your Dragon and interacting with Toothless there at Universal. I cannot wait. It's going to be amazing. I love those movies to death, to my very inner core. I don't need this.
No.
And
thankfully, that world you go and visit will be inspired by the animated movie. So,
yes, and exactly. Exactly. Look, this is one still. I don't necessarily want to get too, maybe analyze this too much, but if this still is indicative of what's to come, there's a lot to be desired.
There's a lot to worry about.
I do agree there. All right, Brennan, let's talk about coffee. I love it. You love it.
Even the word just makes me feel happy.
It is everyone's favorite. Look, right now, especially as we're all really busy, it is the end of the year. Maybe you're busy at work. The holidays are also coming up. The weather's changing for a lot of people. In the northern part of the United States,
in my
at the very least.
It's time for those holiday blends, I'll tell you.
It's time for those holiday blends. And that's why we love Coffee Call, because they source specialty great coffee from all over the world. Yeah. They have great single origin coffees. They have awesome blends. And as Brendan noted, because it is November, they have their holiday blend available right now. It is my favorite coffee they have.
Good.
It is absolutely terrific. It is Christmas in a cup. It is so fantastic. I had some holiday blend before coming on to this episode, of course. Oh, it's just the best.
And the fact that we record these at 9 p.m. at night is why I'm laughing.
Yeah, no, it's terrific. I was sitting next to, feel free to judge me all you want, but I'm never going to change. I will always be this person. But yes, I had my holiday blend next to my Christmas tree, which is already up in my house. So it's just the best time of year. I have to create winter in my house, as I noted earlier.
I tried to tell my wife to put up. I tried to tell my wife to put up a giant turkey instead of a Christmas tree, but didn't win that argument.
You can do both. Put up turkeys. I have Thanksgiving decorations in my house as well.
All right. Well, at least you're doing it right. At least you're doing it right. And of course, the great tasting holiday blend just goes so well with that overall aesthetic.
Oh, it's so good. So you got to get some holiday blend. Another thing you can get at Coffee Cult for a gift for someone, the coffee lovers in your life, they have a holiday loot box. What does that mean? A holiday loot box comes with a Coffee Cult mug and a 12-ounce coffee. So it is a great stocking stuffer. It's a great Christmas gift for your loved ones. Comes at a very reasonable price. You can go check all of that out at coffeecult.com. That's coffee with a K, call with a K. Coffeecult.com. At checkout, use our code ISF24. That code is ISF24, and you'll get 15% off at checkout. But go check them out. That's coffeecult.com, and we thank them for their support. All right, Brennan, let's talk about Patreon. One of the best
Yeah.
ways that you can support us is through Patreon, patreon.com/InSessionFilm.
Indeed.
If you want to go check us out over there, we have a couple of different tiers that you can sign up for at Patreon. As low as $1 a month. It goes all the way up to $10 a month. And your support over there really helps out the show. And one of the best perks you'll get with Patreon is that you will be, you'll get access to all of our bonus content over there, exclusive to our bonus content.
Yes.
And we are currently in the stages right now of planning, recording, and hopefully releasing soon our latest bonus content, where we're going to talk about Agatha, the latest from Marvel on Disney Plus.
It was Agatha all along.
It was Agatha all along. And The Penguin, the latest from DC over there on Max. So we got Agatha, we got The Penguin. Both of those just finished, just wrapped up within the last week or so. I have seen both, and we're going to talk about them. So that will be our new Patreon bonus content. So go to patreon.com/InSessionFilm, and that will be a great way to help us out and support the show. If you want to listen to that bonus content, but you don't want to be on Patreon, or you're not on Patreon, you don't want to sign up on Patreon, that is okay. Yeah. Although Patreon is one of the best ways, if not the best way, to support the show. However, we also have that bonus content on 2 other platforms. If
That's
you're
correct.
watching us on YouTube, if that's where you live and you watch our YouTube, our podcast here on YouTube, you can become a member of our channel. And when you sign up to become a member of our channel, you'll get access to those VIP episodes that way as well. Or if you listen to us on Apple Podcast, you can sign up for an Apple Podcast subscription, and you can listen to our bonus content that way as well. So if you want any more information on that, just go to InSessionFilm.com, and you'll be able to find that information there. Or you can just reach out to us on social media. We'll be able to walk you through it as well. So
Absolutely.
Patreon, YouTube membership, Apple Podcast subscription, you'll get access to all of our bonus content in those 3 ways. And for those that do that, we really do appreciate your
Thank you so
support.
much.
All right, let's talk about musicals, musicals of the 21st century so far. So of the last 24 years, there's been a lot of great musicals to come out. We're not going to do a ranking or a top 5 here. We're just going to have a general discussion around these musicals, primarily because I need to be a little cathartic here. There's been a lot of great musicals to come out.
Yeah.
We could do a top 5 perhaps at some point, but I really just want to use this as an excuse to, again, maybe rant against some that have either won Oscars already or are on their way to winning Oscars. Maybe spoiler alert for our Emilia Perez review that is coming out. That is a film that, at least to this point, has been heavily in the awards conversation.
Yeah.
And it could end up being one of those movies, as we get every year, that film Twitter vilifies, but the Academy doesn't care and they go for it anyway. That could be Emilia Perez this year.
Yeah.
We don't love that movie. We don't love that movie. And it likely could be nominated and maybe even win awards that should have gone to other musicals.
Yes.
I think of something like, as we jump into this, Cyrano from a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely love that movie with every fiber of my being. And that is a movie that has only grown on me since. I think about it a lot. I still listen to that soundtrack all the time. Absolutely adore that one. Or I think in the same year even, Leos Carax's Annette with Adam Driver, which is one of my favorite movies of this decade so far. I think it is absolutely astounding.
that is the movie. That is the movie musical from this decade that should have garnered the awards conversation that Emilia Perez is garnering. Right.
Yeah.
And I like Cyrano quite a bit as well. I think the music in both of these films is astounding. And similarly, these are two movie musicals that employed like indie artists to compose and write the music for primarily, and
Yeah.
the songs for. If I remember correctly, it was the Desner brothers that
For
handled the
Cyrano,
music
yeah.
for Cyrano, obviously of the national fame, and
Yep.
then of course Sparks. And you know the two
Yep.
brothers there, Mal brothers, doing the music for Annette, and very powerful, unique stuff. Both of those movies had a unique interpretation on what the modern movie musical can be.
Yeah.
I think maybe Cyrano was a little bit more traditional by comparison to something like Annette, but I think they both still tried to push the form a little bit forward,
Yeah.
as opposed to, let's just say, something like the Best Picture winning Chicago from 2 decades beforehand, which you and I did not go for when we
Not a
revisited
big
it
fan.
in preparation for that specific retrospective we did some years ago.
Yeah. And perhaps that's a little hot takey, because a lot of people do love that. And you know, because, you know, with Emilia Perez, Wicked coming out, there's a lot of conversation around musicals right now. So I have seen Chicago on the timeline. People do really love that movie. I'm glad that people do. It is not for me. I do not like that film a whole lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
You talk
same.
about a film that is edited to hell. That is Chicago.
Oh, gosh,
I do not enjoy that film a whole
and
lot.
that's a movie that should not be edited in that way. You know, like the choreography, the Bob Fosse choreography there that is so iconic to that musical is like, you need that. You can't edit around that. It is ridiculous.
But it does feel like a movie that wanted to edit, maybe not edit it out, but edit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what they were trying to. They're certainly trying to edit around it. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
But that is to say, that is another one that won awards that could have gone to something else.
Yep.
Around that same time. So like, yeah, I mean, Emilio Perez, I'm not a huge fan of. You know, if maybe it'll go on to garner Oscar nominations, who knows? But Annette and Cyrano, I think, are two films that over time we'll look back on in another 20 years and be like, those were, of the early 2020s, those were the two. Those were certainly the two. And who knows about Wicked? Wicked could be great. I don't know. I'm hearing
we haven't seen it yet. We've
only
actually
fantastic
we've heard some good
things
things
about Wicked.
We've heard great things. Yeah.
Yeah, even from those that I know were also dubious, that shared the same reservations we did, have walked out of that going, nope, the trailers are doing that film a complete disservice. That's all I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So Wicked could be great. That could also be in this conversation with Annette and Cyrano. Of course, that film won't be overlooked.
No, that'll be a huge hit.
But
and
yeah,
the
that'll be a
difference
huge
there,
hit.
the difference there is that is similar to something like Chicago, which was based on a very popular Broadway musical.
Yeah. Annette and Cyrano are not popular by any stretch of the imagination.
No. Yeah,
know,
with
so-
Annette specifically being, you know, an original musical, right?
Yeah,
that was
from Leos Carax, a filmmaker that I'm sure even a lot of cinephiles don't know much about, let
Mr.
alone
Holy Motors himself.
exactly. Yeah, love Carax as a filmmaker. I never expected that film to be successful on a wide scale. Although I do think over the last few years it has infiltrated itself, at least into the film conversation, a little bit more. I think that people are really coming around on that in the film space, not widely, but at least in the film space. And that maybe I will have to accept that as a win. Cyrano, maybe a little bit as well. I still think it hasn't come around to the same degree, but I'm going to champion the hell out of that film. I think it is absolutely one of the best films of 2022. And again, that's a film that I've only come around more on. And to your point about maybe how formal that is comparatively to something like Annette, what I love about Cyrano, and we talked about this in our Emilia Perez review, execution makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Like, Cyrano is a film that has great music. The Desner brothers absolutely deliver The performances are great. The framing of it, the editing, the implementation of that music is absolutely astounding, even as the tone and narrative shifts. I mean, I can't remember the name of the number, but we think of that film and how it shifts narratively. They go off to war, and then there's that battle as they're like writing letters before they go into battle. That number is deeply moving.
It's powerful.
Destroyed
It's
me.
powerful.
Extremely powerful. Yeah, like the conviction, the execution of that film, I think is out of bounds. It's so good. And I do love it. So those two films I would champion as two of the very best musicals we've seen since the turn of the century.
I think that's up there. And if we're keeping to this decade in particular, the 2020s, we would be remiss if we didn't at least acknowledge Steven Spielberg's take on
That was
West
going to be
Side
the next
Story.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the same year as Annette, I believe. So
Yeah, and I feel like that's a film I'm slowly liking more as time goes on. I still don't love the Ansel Elgort of it all. I think that is the film's biggest problem.
Fair.
But it is so well directed. Spielberg directs the hell out. But it's like it's
crazy good, yeah.
But I think that once again proves when movie musicals can be effective and unique, even when you're tackling familiar and traditional territory like West Side Story, because Spielberg does not come from a musical background, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that makes for the most innovative ways to direct something if you've never ever done it before. The way he shoots the musical numbers in West Side Story, I've never seen them done like that before. They almost feel like an action film without actually becoming an action film. He does something with the way that they're choreographed and moved and all in camera and very limitless in their editing.
Yeah.
He focuses on the acrobatics of a musical and just captures it in a way that I don't think I've really ever seen. And I'm really learning to appreciate that movie more, just given the Spielberg of it all and what he does to, reinvigorate it.
No, it's really great. I mean, that's a movie where, and maybe you could say this about a few of his films, but West Side Story, maybe most prominently, that is a movie where Spielberg himself is the star of the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the cinematography, the evocative aesthetic, the energy, the razzle dazzle of that film. It is striking. It is an invigorating film from a directional perspective. And every time it's brought up, that's all people want to talk about is the direction of the film.
Yeah.
It truly is an effortless film in that regard. I completely agree.
It is not one of my favorite Spielberg films. I mean, it's kind of like if I were to do a ranking of all of his films, West Side Story might be somewhere like in the middle. But I think it might be one of his better directed films, if that makes any sense. It's for that reason.
I completely agree. Like it doesn't do anything to reinvent the wheel narratively or thematically about that material. It's fairly straightforward as a musical in that regard, but he directs the hell out of it, and that's enough for me.
I think some people going forward, some filmmakers who want to make a movie musical and they need new inspiration, they might look to Spielberg's take on it. I think that could be an influential film for the movie musical going forward. I think it really could be.
I completely agree. I mean, kind of just getting to the execution of it. Like Spielberg did not really care to change that story at all. Wanted
Rightfully
to keep it basic, keep it simple, but we're going to bring a conviction and a visual flair to this film that will make people want to go see it in a theater. And it pops.
Yeah.
It absolutely pops. So yeah, I do completely agree. Like of this decade, especially, that one certainly comes to mind. And 2021 surprisingly had a lot of musicals that year, right? Because you had Annette, we had West Side Story. There was Tick, Tick, Boom that year as well. A film that like has grown on me more since I've seen it, especially the performance. Andrew Garfield, sorry, that was the name I was trying to think of. Andrew Garfield's performance lingers in my mind. With
That's
film.
the thing that maintains any staying power with that movie for me. I didn't love the movie, but I think he's certainly worth noting. I think he's really great in it.
I completely agree. Yeah, and yeah, so that has stuck with me. And Kanto also came out that year. And again, like you and I didn't go for it as much as everyone else did, but that did enter the zeitgeist in a big way.
Yeah.
And The Heights came out that year. That was a nice little hit in the summertime
Yeah,
of 2021.
it's another one I didn't love. Honestly, In the Heights is the thing that gave me the most concern about Wicked because I just didn't love John M. Chu's direction for In the Heights. I think that was more
Okay.
so a performance thing that made that movie work as opposed to the look of it. And
Okay.
hopefully he proves me wrong with Wicked coming out this weekend. Like we said, we haven't seen it yet.
Sure. All right, yeah, that's
yeah.
fair. I liked In the Heights, but maybe it is a performance thing. I don't know. Or the material is just
The
really
material's good. Yeah, the material's strong.
Yeah, and 2021 also featured everyone's favorite movie that year, Dear Evan Hansen, which I have yet to see.
I've never even seen it.
Yeah, I will probably never see.
I just hit away from that one.
Yeah, there were certainly a few others as well, but like, yeah, 2021 had a lot of musicals come out that year. So, all right, well, since we're talking about the century on the whole, I mean,
Yeah, we can
is
go
there
back a little bit.
anything- Yeah, we can go back a little bit. I mean, we don't have to spend a lot of time here, but a film that you and I have championed for a long time now, Dancer in the Dark, I think is at least worth mentioning once again here.
Probably the best musical of the century so far that we recommend to absolutely nobody.
Yeah, I cannot recommend that film to a soul.
No.
But astounding. Yeah, phenomenal work. Yeah, where did you have that on your best of the decade again? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, I don't remember.
That's okay. I threw that on you on the spot, so I wasn't sure.
It wasn't
had
quite
that on the
in
cuff.
my. I know it wasn't in my top 10. I think it was definitely somewhere in my top 30.
Yeah,
and it
certainly up
was
there. Yeah,
it was in my top 3 of the year it came out when we did our 2000 retrospective. So, keep talking. I'm looking it up now. I've got Letterboxd on my phone.
Yeah, I don't know where I have it ranked as far as best
18.
of the decade goes.
18.
Okay, I knew. I thought you had it fairly high. So
Yeah.
yeah, I have that at number 4 on my list for 2000 for the year 2000. So yeah, it's somewhere in that top, probably top 50 for sure. Yeah, it's definitely in that top 50 somewhere. Maybe top 40. I'd have to go back and look at my list, but yeah, I
honestly,
love it. I absolutely love it as well.
Honestly, if we're looking at this category of movie musicals from the 21st century, if we're looking at it in the most literal sense, Dancer in the Dark is probably my favorite of the bunch. But if we were to be a bit, I guess, looser with that definition of movie musical, because there are some that kind of straddle the line a little bit.
Well, and I wanted to ask you this because I do have a few written here with question marks. Like, are we considering these musicals?
That's the thing. Okay, a movie like Inside Llewyn Davis, I would not.
That's the big one. Yeah,
that one I would not. But I might give a slight okay to movies like Once and Sing Street, primarily because they're while they do still function in a similar music performative
they're very
space,
similar structurally. Yeah,
but John Carney's films still have an element of magical realism at play at least one time or a few times. Like I think of I think of the sequence with Marketa Irglova singing the song "If You Want Me" with her cassette tape in her ears, and she just walks and sings it on the streets. It's a moment that actually feels very musical like in a movie that really isn't functioning as a traditional musical. And then of course in Sing Street you have the Drive It Like You Stole It sequence, that very dreamy like sequence, and that's very much a musical sequence.
And is that how we're defining musical then? Is it has to have some sort of otherworldly quality?
Maybe not otherworldly, but it almost feels like it needs to break away from the grounding of the narrative, if that makes sense. You know, which a lot of musicals do. You know, they feel like they transcend the gravity of it all.
Pun
I guess to make
intended?
it, in wicked terms, they defy gravity. I do think John Carney's films have an element of that. Not 100%, but they do have an element of that.
Okay.
Whereas a movie like Inside Llewyn Davis is very practical and very grounded. It's not going for that. That's what makes it great, but it's not going for that same thing. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I think you make an interesting point. I don't know. I look at Inside Llewyn Davis, and that is a film where music, like characters are playing music. It's not just soundtrack that we hear, right? But characters on camera, in camera, playing music no less than 6 or 7 different times in that film.
Yeah.
At the very least. So it feels very musical, even if it's not traditional. You know, it certainly breaks away from we're talking in a conventional sense and then showtime. And
yeah,
we're
it's
singing and dancing. It's not doing that, obviously.
It's not doing that, no.
But characters are performing music, sometimes in their entirety, right? He does at least 3 songs in their entirety. When you think about Fare Thee Well, the one in
Please,
Chicago,
Mr. Kennedy.
Please, Mr. Kennedy, and Hang Me. All of those songs are done in their entirety.
They are
film,
performed. They
on
are
camera.
performed. Yeah, they are performed. They're in camera. They are sung in their entirety. It's I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's like it's the grounded nature of that as a musician showcasing their work. Because I often try to separate, or I try to distinct the difference between someone singing in a musical and some musician performing on stage or performing for someone else.
And that's fair. Like you could classify it as a movie about music,
sure,
rather than a musical. And because a lot of traditional musicals, or like when you think about a musical, it does have a little bit of this like Broadway element. Yeah. Right? Where characters are singing and dancing as part of the narrative. It kind of takes you away from that grounded sensibility.
Yeah. They're deliberately theatrical.
Yeah, deliberately. And that is not Inside Llewyn Davis. I do agree with you there. I mean, I think about Once, I think about Sing Street, which I think are certainly more grounded than something like a Moulin Rouge or a Cyrano or something to that effect.
Those movies are still primarily movies about music and music performers.
They're closer to Inside Llewyn Davis than Broadway.
They absolutely are. But they do elevate slightly above Inside Llewyn Davis.
There are a couple of times,
one point or another. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not
and
wrong,
maybe,
so.
and I guess like it with sequences like Drive It Like You Stole It lingering and just being like such a centerpiece for that movie, for Sing Street in particular, I'm almost half tempted to include it. Even though I have said many times in previous shows, I don't really consider movies like Once and Sing Street musicals. But maybe for the context of this conversation, we at least acknowledge that maybe they could be. Because there are elements there of that defying of gravity, like we've said.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay. That's fair. That's very fair. It certainly makes for an interesting discussion as far as how we are defining these.
For sure.
If we are counting them, even Inside Llewyn Davis would be my number one if we were.
If we are counting that, then yes, that's probably my number one as well. My top 3 would probably be, if we're including all of these, my top 3 would probably be Inside Llewyn Davis, Dancer in the Dark, and Sing Street. I think those would be my top 3.
Those would be your okay.
Yeah. Mine
would be Inside Llewyn Davis, Annette, Dancer in the Dark.
Okay.
Probably. And then Moulin Rouge, and then Cyrano. Or maybe even reverse those. Okay. That would probably be my 5 if we were doing a top 5.
If we were doing a top 5, somewhere in my top 5, I might actually include The Muppets. You know, with Jason Segel.
No, I have those listed down here as well. Yeah. Like The Muppets from 2011. Yeah. Awesome movie. So good. I love that one.
That would be in there. Tim Burton's Sweeney Todd would probably be
Sweeney
somewhere in my top 10.
Sweeney Todd is really good. I love Sweeney Todd.
Of course, we're talking about movie musicals of the 21st century. We have to at least acknowledge La La Land. La La Land
La La
is
Land
one
would
of
be
the
close.
best.
Like that would
Yeah.
probably be my 6 or 7.
Same.
Yeah. I love La La Land. Yeah. We're post 2016. I think we're post the whole turning
can
art
safely
into
say we
sports
like La La
nonsense.
Land.
We can
We're
safely
okay.
say that we like La La Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've moved past that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, La La Land, really good movie. That's probably 6 for me. Yeah.
I think so for me as well.
And then, we have to acknowledge the animated realm. Pinocchio probably comes after that for me.
Oh yeah, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
And Frozen 2 is somewhere in that mix. Frozen 2
Frozen
is a
2
film
is
that
so
I'm-
interesting.
It's so interesting.
I will go to bat for Tangled. I think that's a very
Okay,
underrated one. I really like that one,
Yeah.
but I actually appreciate the ambition of Frozen 2 a little bit more because that is a weird movie that I'm surprised got
weird.
made.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that was the pitch that got
Yeah.
accepted for the sequel to Frozen. I think
I
it's
know.
just
It's pretty
absolutely
wild.
incredible. Yeah.
And Frozen itself, I still do admire because, especially in the world we live in today, where everything is so manufactured from like a corporate perspective, and there's such a stranglehold on how we're going to present ourselves and do business. And Frozen is a movie where Disney is very actively making fun of themselves.
Yeah.
And so there is something about that self-awareness I do really like. I know it hit the zeitgeist in a big way, and people find it annoying. And there's the Josh Gad of it all, which I get. I think Josh Gad hit lightning in a bottle. He is really great as that character. Maybe not much else beyond that.
Yeah, he basically took Olaf to his other roles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Olaf, great character. Lightning in a bottle for sure. But like, I will always appreciate Frozen for being wholly subversive to the Disney formula. Even if people do find it annoying because it was so popular, which, maybe another conversation for another time. But I do admire that. But I agree with you. Frozen 2 and its weird ambition is so appealing to me.
Yeah.
I will always admire that film because of that.
Yeah.
And even though it doesn't quite have the boldness to it, I think because I've seen it 600 million times, I've really come to really love the music for Moana as well. I don't think as a film, it doesn't reach the same heights as some of these other animated movies. But I think when you're talking about a music film, a musical, the music to Moana is really among the best.
Yeah.
So I do want to give that one a shout out here as well.
Yeah. Disney has done some good things with their musicals over the past really like almost 20 years. The Princess and the Frog was not bad. I appreciated their attempt to get back to traditional hand-drawn animation. I just think they succeeded in the narrative side with movies like Tangled and Frozen.
Yeah.
I think they're better told movies. They're smoother experiences, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like a lot of those as well.
And to clarify, because I went over this real fast because we were just going through a spell there on animation.
Yeah.
When I said Pinocchio, I was not referring to Zemeckis' nonsense.
No, I tried to jump in there and say Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Del Toro's
so
Pinocchio. To be clear, Del Toro's Pinocchio. Yeah, just for anyone listening, wanted to make that clear.
Yep.
Yeah, love that movie. Anything else we should mention here?
I've got a few others here that I think are kind of obscure ones that I
Okay.
think are enjoyable and worth noting, that are very interesting in their own right, sometimes very funny. There has developed a bit of a cult following for Josie and the Pussycats,
Oh, okay.
which I actually did see with my wife a few months ago. She's a big fan of it, and I hadn't seen it since it came out. I was not even high school at the time, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a pretty subversive movie. It actually, in a weird way, is kind of ahead of the curve, and I appreciated that. So I want to give a little bit of a shout out there. And here's a very out of the box pick. Remember the movie Carmen with Melissa Barrera, the Benjamin
Yeah.
Millepied film?
Yeah.
A very interesting one that I had on
Yeah.
my list that I at least wanted to acknowledge once again.
That's oh man, I kind of forgot about that one. Yeah, because I did like that movie.
Yeah.
It is, it doesn't quite all come together, but
I agree.
great music. Love the cinematography, the performances. Yeah, really, that's a really inspired pick. Yeah, I like that one a lot as well. A few others that I'll mention here. Hedwig and the Angry Inch, I really love that.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a great film from its year that I really adored. The Pitch Perfect films.
Yep, I
Do
have
they
that on my
qualify
list
here?
too.
Yeah, so I really like them a lot.
Yeah.
And then what about Pop Star?
Never stop, never stopping.
Never stopping.
Heck yeah.
Like that's another one that's kind of grown on me a lot over these last few years as well.
I mean, when it comes to music biopics, Pop Star and Walk Hard might be the two best of the century
Seriously.
so far.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought that was absolutely fantastic. So, I just wasn't sure if Pop Star kind of fell into the inside Llewyn Davis Sing Street kind of territory.
Yeah, it kind of does. I mean, even a movie like August Rush I have on my list as one
Yeah,
that
same.
we could, like that I think is a pretty charming movie.
August Rush, though, I think there's an argument to be made that it's more in kind of that Sing Street once territory you were referring to
absolutely
earlier.
is.
Maybe
Yeah.
even more so.
I think even more so. It's certainly more heightened than even those
Yeah.
two films, or even if it does maybe sit in a similar grounded space, it's arguably even slightly less grounded by comparison to those 2.
Mhm. Yeah. I liked The Color Purple. I thought it was it was fine. Like I like
Yeah.
the music. I really enjoyed the music. I understand why it kind of fizzled out from like an awards perspective, but I liked it.
Yeah, I did too. Another one I have here, and you might have it on your list, and I might just be jumping the gun a little bit. I wanted to love Rocket Man more.
Yeah, I have that kind of here as like an honorable mention.
Yeah, I think that's, and I want to bring it up here for the purposes of this list because I think where it works the best is as a musical. When it veers away from the biopic formula to be a bit more inventive and unique and more musical, for lack of a better term, I think it actually is really great. It's just it does get stuck in some of the Wikipedia style storytelling trappings that we see with a lot of music biopics.
Yeah, that's the only thing that really holds that film back for me. Otherwise, I think there's a lot to love about it. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, no, I love the ambition, the direction of it, the performance. Yeah, there's a lot to really like about the film. I just wish that it wasn't so bullet pointy in its storytelling.
Yeah, I agree.
But unfortunately, a lot of biopics, that's what they do.
It comes
And
with the
it's
territory, right?
unfortunate. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's almost expected in a way, and it's really unfortunate because that is some of the most mundane storytelling one can have.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Sadly, I hope we don't see that once again this year with A Complete Unknown.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fully anticipating it. Like that's how the trailers. That's what it seems to suggest. So, I don't know. We'll see, but I'm pretty dubious for that film in that regard, for sure.
I am too.
All right. Anything else? Any other musicals that we might have overlooked here?
We didn't mention Enchanted.
Oh yeah, I have Enchanted on my list. Yeah, really fun movie. I like that
Yeah,
one a
very
lot,
fun
too.
movie. Yeah, so let's at least acknowledge that. I'll acknowledge one more just for the sake of maybe getting a few pitchforks thrown at me from maybe some of our listeners, because this is a movie and thus a series that sort of has a bad reputation nowadays. But I actually think, in retrospect, there was a lot of conviction and good effort put into the High School Musical movies.
Okay.
I actually think they're pretty good for what they are. Like they're not my kind of movie, but as a musical and the craft to make those as musicals with catchy songs, very much in the Grease-like formula,
Okay.
I do think they're effective at what they're trying to do for their particular target audience, the Disney Channel audience.
Sure.
I think in that regard, they are effective. So I at least want to give a shout out to them that I think they're succeeding in what they're attempting to do.
All right. Yeah, never seen them. Never seen them.
They're not that bad. They're nothing special, but they're not that bad.
Okay, fair enough. What do you, again, haven't seen these movies either, and this is maybe going to get me in trouble with film Twitter.
Okay.
Do you have a thought on the Mamma Mia movies?
I haven't seen the second one actually.
Okay.
The first one I hated.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there it is. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
have
heard this. I heard the sequel's better from most people. I hear a lot of people said
Okay.
they like the second one more.
Interesting.
I just never bothered to watch it. And I'm a big fan of ABBA. And I'm a big fan of that musical as well.
I was going to say I have seen the musical itself, but I haven't seen the movies, so I don't know.
Yeah, I
can't
did
speak
not
to them,
love that
but
movie.
I know. I mean, they get talked about a lot, so
I know.
I thought
Yeah.
I thought I would.
It was
throw
a
it out
huge
here.
hit when it came out.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, so yeah, I don't have anything else to add to that. I mean, I guess maybe the only thing I can say here is so circling it back to Disney, they've done a lot of these live action adaptations, and most of them have been real bad. I guess I will. Well, actually, I was going to give a shout out, but I revoke it. I take it back. They've all been not great as far as the musicals go.
Some have been better than others.
Yeah.
We'll say that.
Yeah. I think that's all I have on my list then.
There have been some good ones. Hopefully, we get to sing the musical praises once again when we see Wicked and Moana 2 later this year.
Yeah. Maybe the last thing I'll say, I don't hate it as much as everyone else. I enjoy Les Mis. I do.
Yeah, I don't love it. But I think I think the performances are mostly very good. I don't love Russell Crowe in it. I think there are some sequences in it though that are very breathtaking. I think there are some things in it from an aesthetic standpoint, from a filmmaking standpoint, that are very effective. So I don't hate the movie. I think you jokingly said the movie's 17 hours long. Yeah, I agree. It feels like it. It very much does.
It is forever long. That is ultimately my biggest criticism with the film, is that it does feel like it goes on for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is a little unfortunate. But outside of that, I don't know. I don't know if I can't really put a finger on it. It could be it's probably a combination of a billion things. I mean, Tom Hooper's direction, maybe it's the live singing, maybe a lot of it is the performances of the film, but and maybe just the execution of the music itself. I just find the music,
the
rendition of them is really compelling, and I enjoyed myself.
Clearly, Tom Hooper was trying to capture a legit theatrical stage play like vibe to it. So there are a lot of long takes, a lot of extended sequences, which leads to some very breathtaking sequences, but also leads to a lot of very stilted sequences as well. And the movie does give me whiplash a bit. Like there are moments that really work, and then there are moments that feel like, okay, you just get on with it. We need more. We need more than just Anne Hathaway in a blank screen singing to the camera. Like, we need a little bit more than that.
Okay. I mean, I got that. So I mean, I like I said, I enjoyed it. I again take it for what it's worth. Maybe I lose all my credibility here. I don't know. Like I
know some people who
I can't find myself to even hate Russell Crowe. I just don't.
Funny enough,
I don't know what it is. I think it's just because Russell Crowe, despite his singing voice, I think he's just such a captivating screen presence that I can't help myself. Like, I just fall for his spell every single time.
That's so funny because normally I'm with you, and normally he is criticized in Les Mis because of his singing voice. For me, it's the other way around. I don't hate the singing voice. I don't like the performance. Everything around the singing is what I don't like about Russell Crowe. He looks like he does not want to be there to me. Like, he looks like the second they yell cut, he's leaving. Like, it just gives me
the opposite reaction. Yeah, totally opposite reaction. And like, I don't mind the singing voice either, but I very much felt like he was trying his hardest. Like and he wanted to be there. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think he ever phones it in, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Even in Thor: Love and Thunder, like, he's the only one that cared. Like,
oh God,
you know what I mean? Like, man. I don't know. There's just something about him. He just has that aura. I don't know. That's the only way I can explain it.
He's a
Dude
movie
just knows
star.
how to be on screen.
He's
I mean,
unhinged.
even this year, he was like in a small little action drama, and I'm like, man, this is one of the most underrated performances of the year. Like, he's really great. Like, I love him. He's the best. All right. So that's our discussion, small little discussion here on movie musicals of the 21st century. We'll see what 2024 has in store. It is not off to a great start as far as the end of year campaign goes anyway, because Emilia Perez, we were not impressed with that one a whole lot. We'll see what, hopefully Wicked surprises. It sounds like it might. So
Sounds like it might. Yeah.
if you agree or disagree with anything we had to say here, leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, reach out to us on social media. You can hit us up. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky. We're on there being a little bit more active as well. You can always email us InSessionFilm@gmail.com. As I noted, we have 3 reviews out this week. Emilia Perez. We are also going to talk about Jesse Eisenberg's A Real Pain and the animated film Memoir of a Snail. We should have a brand new Chasing the Gold this week as well, talking about Shadon's Oscar picks, and there'll be a new Women in Session as well. Brendan, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Oh man, I hope Wicked pleases me. I have been so concerned about that one, and I'm honestly I just hope it pleases me. That's all I'll simply say.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm really looking forward to it, and because there's been reactions from those that shared my reservations and have come out with nothing but great things to say about it. So I am looking forward to it. I could have seen it today as we were recording this. We had our local press screening here, but it was either skip that and go see Red One, or we build the swing set and miss Wicked. And I chose the latter. So
You're a good dad.
Just trying to help out my kids. That's all.
That's all it is.
Just love
Important.
my kids.
It's important, man.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, with all that said, thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the InSession Film Podcast. Fair enough. Annette, awesome music.
Annette, we love each other so much.